Good morning, good day, good evening. This is YieldMaxMindset bringing to you YieldMax Group 2 distribution announcement along with RoundHill. Alrighty, let's get to it. Now, this is going to be a list of all the high yield ETFs. We have Rexshares, Defiance ETFs, Neos Funds, Curve Invest, RoundHill Investment, Granite Shares, Pro Shares, YieldMax ETFs, and Bitwise ETFs. So check out these websites and you can see other um, high yielding ETFs other than YieldMax and RoundHill, Granite Shares, and Bitwise. There's others. There's probably a few more that I don't have listed here. All right, let's get to it. These prices are going to vary every week and every month. If you should happen to own some of the above ETF, here's a roundabout payout you should receive. Below is what you should get paid out for owning the number of shares multiplied by the price per share. First up, ABNY weekly yield max funds closed yesterday at 9.38. Previously closed at 9.97. Previously paid out 11 cents. Currently paying out 6 cents. So had you invest $498.50 into this fund, you would have got 50 shares, and 50 shares would have given you $2.92 this week. Next, we have AIYY. Closed yesterday at $2.26. Previously closed at $2.57. Previously paid out 0.0353. Currently paying out 0.0301. So had you invested $257 into this fund, that would have given you 100 shares. And 100 shares would have gotten you $3.01 this week. Next, we have AMDY. Closed yesterday at 9.69. Previously closed at 9.74. Previously paid out 23 cents. Currently paying out 12 cents. So had you invested $4,870 into this fund, that would have gotten you 500 shares, and 500 shares would have gotten you $60.35 this week. Next, we have AMZY. Closed yesterday at 15.12. Previously closed at 14.18. Previously paid out 20 cents. Currently paying out 29 cents. So, had you invested $14,180 into this fund, that would have gotten you 1,000 shares, and 1,000 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $293.90. Next, we have APLY. Closed yesterday at $13.78. Previously closed at exactly $13.78. Previously paid out 13 cents. Currently paying out 11 cents. All right. So had you invested $27,560 into this fund, so that would have gotten you 2,000 shares. And 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $221.60 this week. Next, we have BABO. Closed yesterday at $15.12. Previously closed at $15.94. All right. Previously paid out 26 cents. Currently paying out 15 cents. All right. So had you invested $31,880 into this position, it would have gotten you 2,000 shares. And 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $300 this week. Next, we have BRKC. All right, closed yesterday at 45.91. Previously closed at 46.97. Previously paid out 15 cents. Currently paying out 15 cents. All right, so had you invested $93,940 into this fund, that would have gotten you 2,000 shares, and 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $292.80. Next, we have Coney. Closed yesterday at $5.71. Previously closed at $6.43. Previously paid out 14 cents. Currently paying out 9 cents. So, had you invested $32,150 into this fund, that would have gotten you 5,000 shares, and 5,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $443.50. Next, we have CRCO. Closed yesterday at $37.64. Previously closed at $46.17. Previously paid out $1.08. Currently paying out 82 cents. All right. Had you invested $230,850 into this fund, that would have gotten you 5,000 shares. And 5,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $4,076 this week. All right, next we got CRSH. Closed yesterday at $2.90. Previously closed at $2.92. All right. Had you invested $29,200 into this fund, that would have got you 10,000 shares. And 10,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $326 for this week. Next, we have CVNY. Closed yesterday at $32.67. Previously closed at $36.85. Previously paid out 73 cents. Currently paying out 38 cents. So had you invested $1,842.50 into this fund, that would have gotten you 50 shares. And 50 shares would have gotten you a payment out this week of $19.04. Next, we have DIPS. Closed yesterday at $5.25. Previously closed at $5.82. Previously paid out $0.0468. Currently paying out $0.0440. All right. So had you invested $2,910 into this fund, that will give you 500 shares. And 500 shares would have gotten you a payment of $22 this week. Next, we have DISO. Closed yesterday at $12.45. Previously closed at $12.71. Previously paid out 9 cents. Currently paying out 8 cents. All right. So had you invested $6,370 into this position, that would have gotten you 500 shares. 500 shares would have gotten you a payment of $37.40 this week. All right. Next, we have Dre. Closed yesterday at $30.22. Previously closed at $36.03. Previously paid out 33 cents. Currently paying out 37 cents. All right. So had you invested $72,060 into this fund, that would have gotten you 2,000 shares. And 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $730.60. Next, we have FBY. Closed yesterday at $13.15. Previously closed at $15.33. Previously paid out 16 cents and currently paying out 0.0132. All right. So had you invested $766.50 into this fund, it would have gotten you 50 shares, and 50 shares would have gotten you a payment of 66 cents. Next, we got Fiat. Closed yesterday at $2.59.5. Previously closed at $2.54. All right. Previously paid out 0.0361. Currently paying out 0.0430. All right. So had you invested $254 into this fund, that would have gotten you 100 shares. And 100 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $4.30. All right. Next, we got GDXY. Closed yesterday at $14.79. Previously closed at $15.78. Previously paid out 14 cents. Currently paying out 13 cents. All right. So had you invested $7,890 into this fund, it would have gotten you 500 shares, and 500 shares would have gotten you a payment of $65.90. All right. Next, we got GameStop. GMEY closed yesterday at $43.61. Previously closed at $46.36. Previously paid out 54 cents. Currently paying out 49 cents. All right. So had you invested $463,600 into this fund, that would have gotten you 10,000 shares. And 10,000 shares would have given you a payment this week of $4,912. All right, next we got GOOY, closed yesterday at $14.39. Previously closed at $13.72. Previously paid out 14 cents and is currently paying out 28 cents. All right, so had you invested $13,720 into this fund, that would have gotten you 1,000 shares, and 1,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $280.20. All right, next we got HIYY, closed yesterday at $39.40, $34.90. That's that dyslexia kicking in, y'all. Don't tell nobody now. That's our secret. All right, $34.90 is what it closed at yesterday. It previously closed at $40.87. All right, previously paid out 75 cents, currently paying out a nice 59 cents. All right, so had you invested $81,740 into this fund, why? That would have gotten you 2,000 shares, and 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $1,180 this week. All right, next we got Hui. All right, closed yesterday at $64.42. Previously closed at $65.43. All right, previously closed, previously paid out $1.34. Currently paying out $1.26. All right, so had you invested $130,860, that would have gotten you 2,000 shares, and 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $2,513.20. All right. Next, we got JPMO, closed yesterday at $16.33. Previously closed at $16.24. Previously paid out 13 cents. Currently paying out, guess what? 15 cents. All right. So had you invested $162,400 into this position, that would have gotten you a nice 10,000 shares. And of course, 10,000 shares will get you paid out $1,501 for this week. All right. Next, we got Morrow, closed yesterday at $15.02. All right. Previously paid out $18.15. All right. Previously closed at $18.15. Previously paid out 13 cents. All right. Currently paying out, guess what? 30 cents. All right. So had you invested $90,750 into this position, that would have gotten you 5,000 shares, and 5,000 shares would have gotten you a payout for the week of $1,479. Next, we got Murney, closed yesterday at $1.50. Previously closed at $1.72. All right. Previously paid out 0.0315 and currently paying out 0.0219. So had you invested $86 into this position, that would have gotten you 50 shares. And 50 shares would have gotten you a nice payment of $1.10. All right, next we got MSFO, Microsoft, closed yesterday at $17.15. Previously closed at $17.31. Previously paid out 12 cents and currently paying out 10 cents. All right, so had you invested $8,655 into this position, that would have gotten you a nice 500 shares. And 500 shares would have gotten you a payment of $49.65. All right. Next, we got YieldMaxMindset, closed yesterday at $10.04. All right. Previously closed at $12.34. Previously paid out 19. Currently paying out 17 cents. All right. So had you invested $123,400 into this position, that would have gotten you 10,000 shares, and 10,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $1,688 for this week. Next, we got NFLW, closed at $14.59. Previously closed at $16.36. Previously paid out 12 cents. Currently paying out 13 cents. So had you invested $8,180 to this position, that would have gotten you 500 shares. And guess what? 500 shares would have gotten you um, $63.75. All right. Next, we got NVDY closed yesterday at $16.49. Previously closed at $15.63. $16.49 and previously closed at $15.63. Previously paid out 18 cents, currently paying out a nice 32 cents. All right. So had you invested $78,150 into this position last week, that would have gotten you 5,000 shares, and 5,000 shares would get you a yield this week of $1,593. Next, we have OR. Closed yesterday at $8.44. Previously closed at $9. All right. Previously paid out 14 cents. Currently paying out 8 cents. All right. So had you invested 18,000 even into this position, that would give you 2,000 shares even, and 2,000 shares even would have gotten you a payment of $153.20. All right. Next, we got Platy. Platy closed yesterday at $63.04. Previously closed at $62.02. Previously paid out $1.25. Currently paying out $1.22. All right. So had you invested $620,200, 620,000. I'm getting tongue twisted. $620,200. That would have gotten you 10,000 shares, and 10,000 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $12,187. All right, next we got PYPY. Closed yesterday at $9.74. Previously closed at $10.47. All right, previously paid out 14 cents, currently paying out 11 cents. All right, so had you invested $52,300 into this fund, that would have gotten you 5,000 shares, and 5,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $570 for this week. Next, we got RBLY. Closed yesterday at $38.86. Previously closed at $49.37. All right. All right. So previously paid out 51 cents, currently paying out 46 cents. So had you invested $493,700 into this position, that would have gotten you a nice 10,000 shares, and that would have yielded you $4,612 for the week. Next, we have RDYY. Closed yesterday at $38.04. Previously closed at $41.96. Previously paid out $1.03. Currently paying out a huge reduction of 50. No, let's call it 60 cents. All right. So had you invested $41,970 into this position, that would have gotten you 1,000 shares. 1,000 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $598.20. Next, we have SMCY. Closed yesterday at $13.86. Previously closed at $16.01. All right. Previously paid out 26 cents. Currently paying out 33 cents. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot where I was at. What did I say? Hold on. All right. So it paid out 30. It's currently paying out 33 cents. So had you invested $32,020 into this position, that would have given you 2,000 shares. 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $665.80. All right. In all honesty, I fell asleep that quick. I'm sleepy. All right. Next, we got SNOY. Closed yesterday at $15.59. Previously closed at $15.30. All right. Previously paid out 31 cents. Currently paying out 26 cents. So had you invested $7,650 into this position, that would have gotten you 500 shares, and 500 shares would have gotten you a payment of $128.95. All right. Next, we We have TLSY. Let's see here. Closed yesterday at $8.35. Previously closed at $8.45. All right. Previously paid out 11 cents. Currently paying out 15 cents. Okay. All right. I hear you, homie. That's the OG right here. This one in OR. All right. So had you invested $84,500 into this position, they would have gotten you 10,000 shares, and 10,000 shares would have gotten you a payout this week of $1,470. Next, we got TSMY. Closed yesterday at $16.32. Previously closed at $16.78, and previously paid out 16 cents. Currently paying out 17 cents. All right. So had you invested $1,678 into this position, that would have gotten you 100 shares, and 100 shares would have gotten you $17.28 this week. All right, next we got winter. Closed yesterday at $33.09. Previously closed at $29.70. Previously paid out 60 cents. Currently paying out 74 cents. All right. So had you invested $148,500 into this position, it would have got you 5,000 shares. And 5,000 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $3,674.50. All right, next we got XOMO, right? All right, so it closed yesterday at $11.64. Previously closed at $11.71. Previously paid out 0.0839. Currently paying out 0.0524. All right. So had you invested $23,420 into this position, that would have gotten you 2,000 shares, and 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $104.80. Next, we got XYZY. Closed yesterday at $8.30. Previously closed at $9.05. Previously paid out 15 cents. Currently paying out 9 cents. All right. So had you invested $18,100 into this position, that would have gotten you 2,000 shares, and 2,000 shares would have gotten you 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $175.60. All right. Next, we got YBIT. Closed yesterday at $8.18. Previously closed at $9.09. Previously paid out 14 cents. Currently paying out 7 cents. All right. So had you invested $9,090 into this position, it would have got you 1,000 shares, and 1,000 shares would have gotten you a payment this week of $72.70. Next, we got YQQQ. Closed yesterday at $12.41. Previously closed at $12.60. Previously paid out 0.045 cents, and currently paying out currently paying out 5 cents. All right. So had you invested $126,000 into this position, that would have got you 10,000 shares. 10,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $496.10. All right. Next, we got RoundHill Weekly ETF, XDTE. Closed yesterday at $43.89. Previously closed at $44.37. Previously paid out 0.25085. Currently paying out 211,416. All right. So had you invested $443,700 into this position, it would have gotten you 10,000 shares. And 10,000 shares this week would have gotten you a distribution amount of $2,114.16. Next, we got QDTE. Closed yesterday at $35.58. Previously closed at $36.28. All right. Previously paid out 24 cents. Currently paying out 20. Let's make it 21. All right. So had you invested $72,560 into this position, that would have gotten you 2,000 shares, and 2,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $409.32. Next, we have RDTE. Closed yesterday at $32.34. Previously closed at $32.80, right? Previously paid out 25 cents, currently paying out 22 cents. All right. So had you invested $32,800 into this position, that would have gotten you 1,000 shares, and 1,000 shares would have gotten you a payment of $223.50. All right. This is YieldMax Mindset saying thank you for dropping by, viewing this content. Please like and share, or dislike and still share. All right, let's continue to get these distributions, as some of them, or quite a few of them, are paying low. All right, I'm out. Y'all have a blessed day.